Welcome back to the Spoken Truth podcast. And Chaz, your Timberwolves, man.
Yeah.
Your Timberwolves are they're putting a whooping.
Man,
Pardon me. They're putting an ass whooping
yeah.
on the defending champions, man. You cover this team. You've been covering this team for a couple of years now, if I'm not mistaken. I'm gonna let you definitely get the crack at this. How is the energy for this team so far have been in this series and in this playoffs? How has you've covered this team extensively? What have you seen over the years that has revved up to this point where they are now? Now we know Anthony Edwards is a bona fide superstar. I'm putting him in a category of a superstar now. And we
Undeniable.
know he absolutely can't deny it. And we've seen Karl Anthony Towns, who this was his team, and he willingly take that back seat to that dog, which is Anthony Edwards. Um, what have you seen over the course of the years you've been covering him that has led to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with developing the team chemistry. I mean, last year you go through a lot of changes where you acquire a guy like Rudy Gobert, and at the same time, Carl Anthony Towns is kind of having to pass the torch to Anthony Edwards, like you mentioned. And it
Mhm.
wasn't exactly an easy transition on either front. Obviously, Carl Anthony Towns also misses 55 games last year, so that makes it more difficult. You trade for a guy like Mike Conley mid-season. It was just a lot going on. They're kind of a team that was in the play in the last few years, and I think most people expected them to be, right in that 7 to 10 range this year as well. And I thought they were going to be there, maybe be that 6 seed coming into the year. But then you quickly started to see in November and December that this team is legit and it all starts on the defensive end. I mean, you saw it in game 2. That defense was absolutely relentless against the Nuggets. And I don't think for one moment, especially when they had their starters in, the Nuggets were comfortable, not for one possession. I mean, you had a guy like Jamal Murray who is normally very calm, cool, and operates at a high level. He was flustered from the jump. You have a guy like Nikola Jokic, obviously the three-time NBA MVP, one of the best players in the world, a legend at this point. He doesn't get sped up often, and yet Karl Anthony Towns and Nas Reed are playing, making him play out of sorts. Even in game 2 without Rudy Gobert in there. I mean, we're talking about the four-time defensive player of the year. He just got named it the other day, and he wasn't even there in game 2, and it didn't seem like they missed a beat at all. I mean, I have to give so much credit to a guy like Jaden McDaniels. I mentioned Lou Dort on the Thunder as being one of the best perimeter defenders. Jaden McDaniels is arguably the best perimeter defender in the entire NBA. Anthony Edwards, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who I feel like I mention every week on this podcast, just being such a great guy off the bench. He plays at such an elite level on defense, and then he also helps out, knocking down threes, coming off the bench. Nas Reed, the sixth man of the year. I just feel like this team has grown so much over the last 2 or 3 years, and then Anthony Edwards taking a leap from being a good player to being a great player last year to this year, like you said, being a superstar and being, I think, a guy that we all believe can lead a team to a championship. And I think everybody on that team believes that. And,
Yeah.
throughout the year, I think there were different check marks for them. You kind of see this defense is legit. We talk about, oh, they're the top ranked defense in the league. Can that help them make a deep playoff run? And then all of a sudden you're starting to talk about, this team might be right there with Denver. And then in game 2, I think I would say maybe for the first time all year, I said maybe this team should be the favorite to win it all. I mean, you have them with that defense playing that physical, that intense. I think they could beat Boston. I'm not saying they should be the favorite, but I think right now you got to say that they're in that conversation at the very least.
I mean, I've been on this earth for 26 years, and I've never seen a defensive game like I've seen,
It was
like
unreal.
in game two.
Yeah.
It was a I don't even want to use the word I was going to say because it's not really a good word. Um, but I think from the perspective of what they have done to Denver is they've done to Denver what no team has been able to do to Denver in a year and a half,
Yep.
and that's to rattle them.
Mhm.
That's make them flustered. That's get them off their game. No team has been able to knock Denver off their game. The
Oh,
Lakers, Golden State, no upper level team, Boston, has been able to knock this team off of their game. We said it when the trade happened. Not we said it, but the world they exuberated that this could potentially be the worst deal in NBA history, sending Rudy Gobert to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Everyone thought that this deal would flip. Now we had different perspectives on it, but a lot of people said that this deal could end up being the worst trade in NBA history, the worst deal in NBA history. And so to not even for him to be there and for him to win another defensive player of the year just shows the growth that this team had from last year to now. We didn't see this defense intensity last year. We didn't see them locking down. Because who locks down Nikola Jokic? I've never seen
Nobody.
Jokic rattled. I've never seen him more bothered. I've never seen him phased the way he was phased when they lost game 2. They got annihilated. I'm sorry, excuse me. They got annihilated in game 2. It wasn't close. And so I think this team again is an OKC factor, but I have more faith. I have more, I just believe in this team a little more than I do in OKC Thunder. And it's not because, they're not a good team. Obviously they're a great team. They just have that dog. And they have that guy, Anthony Edwards, who is a number one option. And so I think from the perspective of Denver, we've seen Jamal Murray, who, by the way, should have been suspended. He should have been suspended
Yep.
at least one game.
Yep.
But from the perspective of Denver, game 3 is a must win.
Oh yeah.
Without a doubt. If you lose this game tonight, you're getting swept. I already think they're getting swept personally. But if they lose tonight, it's going to become even more evident that this Timberwolves team is on a collision course to meet Boston in the NBA Finals. And I got to tell you, I have the Timberwolves winning that series.
Yeah.
And so what this team has shown is they've shown the ability to play in big moments, win big games, have that dog on their team that's not scared of the moment, that's not shy of the moment, that's willing to rip your heart out to win. And I haven't seen it since Kobe. I have seen it since Michael Jordan. He kind of looks like Michael. Michael got a little explaining to do because he looked a little bit too much like you, Mike. I mean, what's really going on? But I've seen it in different players. I've seen Westbrook have that type of dog mentality a little bit, but he's not as good of a player. No disrespect, Westbrook, but you're not Anthony Edwards. We've seen it in Steph in a different way. We've seen Steph where he hasn't things haven't went his way, and he goes off for 15 straight points. So we've seen it in scenario situation. This guy is 24/7. I want to rip your head off.
Yeah.
And what young 22-year-old in the league right now? No one's touching him. The conversation of 22 and under, like who's the best 22-year-old or 22 and above? I'm sorry. Like, other than him and Luca, there's no one else. I think he's better than Tatum. I think he's better than all these other 22-year or 22 and above. I don't want to put a cap on these guys' ages. But I'm talking 22 and the young guys.
Yeah.
As far as the young generation, the young talent, I don't know if Luca's quite still in that category, but we're throwing him in there. But other than Luca, there's no one better than this guy. And I'm real. I'm not quick to anoint superstars. I got a extensive list. And I'm not quick to say, oh, this guy's a superstar. This guy is a full-fledged superstar.
Yeah. He's got it. He's got
Without a doubt.
it all over.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. And I think you're right that not only is he willing to go at you and try and rip your head off in those closing moments, but he relishes those moments. I mean, you
Yeah.
can see him. He had the dunk at the end of the first half. By the way, that game was over literally not even at halftime.
Yeah.
and he threw it down.
Yeah.
Mike Conley got a steal, tossed it ahead. Anthony Edwards dunk, and he just looked at the crowd, looked at everybody, and just kind of smiled and laughed.
He swept Kevin Durant,
Yeah,
Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal.
and he said,
Three future Hall of Famers.
"All right, Bradley Beal's not a Hall of Famer." First of all, we'll get to that another
I mean,
day.
you can make an argument for it, but at least
Yeah,
two future Hall of
for
Famers.
dramatic effect, I get it, but we'll get to that
Mhm.
conversation another day. But
All right.
you're exactly right though, and Anthony Edwards said throughout that series, KD is my
Mhm.
favorite player of all time, but I want to
Mhm.
kill him out here. And you can
Yeah.
see that in the way he plays. You saw in game one against Phoenix, he hits the step back three over KD and he starts jawing at him, and all KD
Yeah.
can do is kind of look at him and smile because everybody
Yeah.
knows at this point Ant is that guy. And he's going to continue to show that. And we're talking about him going through some of the best players of the last 15 to 20 years, and guys like Kevin Durant, Nikola Jokic. And if he can get this done, and I don't want to look too far ahead, but
It's
I
the
thought,
NBA.
yeah, I mean, I thought game two was the most impressive performance we've seen throughout the entire playoffs of any team.
Mhm.
So if they play at that level, I think we both agree that they can legitimately win the championship.
Yeah, I think what's so funny about the league in the NBA is that you can have a three-time league MVP, in which we could get into it a little bit later, because there's been so much going on with Nikola Jokic winning his MVP award. This guy's the best player in the world. Shea had an amazing season. I'm not taking anything away from Shea. We can get into the debate later. It is a debate. And I don't agree that it was so far-fetched the way that the voters suggested it was, because it was closer than that
Yeah,
by far. They were basically insinuating that Nikola Jokic ran away with this award. That is not the case.
yeah,
It was that was not the case. But we have a succession. If things plan out the way that it's supposed to, we have a succession plan. We know this is Steph and LeBron's league until they retire. But we start building this guy up to take the mantle. We start right now. NBA, we can start right now by building this guy up, put him on TV next year, getting him in front of a worldwide audience. He's already in front of a worldwide audience right now, giving the Timberwolves more games on TV. We can start building up Anthony Edwards as the guy. The thing is, the thing that's so ironic about this is that you have Jason Tatum, who's in one of the biggest markets in the world. They have the most championships in the NBA history. And for him to fall short and lose to this guy, Anthony Edwards, I'm not saying like this guy like he's not good, but I'm saying you lose to this guy and he takes over your position. I mean, Jason Tatum, you cannot let this happen. You I you cannot let this man come in and take what's rightfully yours, what's supposed to be yours. You're in line for it, quote unquote, whatever. But I mean, I think we all will agree that Jason Tatum has the look for it. He has the market for it. He has the game for it. He has everything for it to be the face of the league. He said he wants to be the face of the league, and so he has everything for it. And to have Anthony Edwards just seemingly come out of nowhere. Now we know he didn't come out of nowhere, but to see him just burst on the scene like this and to take it, it is almost equivalent to when LeBron hated, I don't care what nobody say, LeBron hated Steph for like 2, 3 years. Because he kept saying, why this guy don't get no criticism? He came out of nowhere and y'all just all in love with him. That's how Anthony Edwards is now. And so, and Jason Tatum, you got, hey man, you can't let this happen. You can't let this man come in and do this. You gotta, if y'all meet in the finals, y'all have to win. You have to beat him. You just have to. If the Boston Celtics face the Minnesota Timberwolves in the finals and they lose that series, how do you justify keeping this team together? You didn't lose to Denver. You didn't lose to Nikola Jokic, the best player in the world. You didn't lose to LeBron. You didn't lose to Steph. You lost to Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns. And I can't. I'm not speak. I ain't put Anthony Edwards in that category because that's a dog. But I'm saying you didn't lose to. You didn't lose to a guy. You didn't lose to the guy. You lost to an up and coming rising superstar, a person that's coming for your spot. I don't know how you justify keeping that team together. That's just me personally. How do you then go into the negotiations in the off season and say, "Yep, I want 350 million." I don't know how you do that. How do you get up? Get up, get up. You got to get up. They got to
Uh,
get up, man.
I totally get your point, and if the
Uh
Celtics
huh.
fall short, I could see some drastic changes coming. I will say, like we said about the Thunder, sometimes teams just win ahead of schedule, and the Timberwolves might be there right now. So we'll have to wait and see. Um, I do say that I don't think we should look too far ahead because we've seen teams get down 2-0, and then they're able to respond. And I don't think we should doubt the Denver
They're not
Nuggets.
losing to Denver.
I think the
They're
Timberwolves
not losing.
I think the
The
Timberwolves win the
Timberwolves.
series, but
Yes,
I'm not gonna just give up on the Nuggets because this is
I
defending
am.
champion. You think this series is over in 4, you said
The
earlier.
series. The series is over. The series is over. I don't. I don't think. I don't. It doesn't matter to me how you slice it. It could go six. It could go seven. The Minnesota Timberwolves are winning this series.
I I
I
I agree with that.
there's because I think from a standpoint of perspective of how the game, it's not that they lost the games, it's how they lost.
Yeah,
And so I fully expect Denver to win tonight game
yeah,
because they have to.
yeah,
They need to respond in some way. It's different. You lost two games. You're the defending champions. You have the reigning league MVP, newly crowned reigning league MVP, and you lost two games
at
on
home.
your own home court.
Yeah,
It's different if you're losing on away. You,
yep,
you can say, okay, we can go back to the crib, and all we gotta do is, do what they did. They won two games on their home court. Let's win two on ours. You lost at home.
yep,
They whooped your ass on your home court. Now you expect me for you fully expect us to believe that now you're gonna win the four games? Like you're gonna win four games.
yeah,
And now they have flipped this, they have flipped home court advantage. They have it now. And so you fully expect us to believe that you can win this series. I don't see any scenario. I will be shocked. I will be behooved. Yeah, I haven't used behooved in a very long time. I will be behooved if this team win this series. This
yeah.
is over. It's over. It's over.
Yeah, I think so too, and I think you're spot on that it's the way that they won those 2 games in
Yeah.
Denver. I mean, like we said earlier, Jamal Murray absolutely coming unraveled, throwing a heat pack, throwing a towel
Yeah.
on the floor, like you said.
Frustration.
Yeah, I mean, he was so frustrated. He was flopping around trying to draw fouls instead of just playing through the physicality. And the
Yeah.
Timberwolves defenders, I mean, you saw different clips of it. Jaden McDaniels is smiling while defending Jamal Murray. Nikhil Alexander
Oh.
Walker is smiling while he's forcing him to the sideline. It's like these
That's so
guys,
disrespectful.
yeah, but they know like they're bigger, they're longer, they're faster, and even though Jamal Murray is an overall better player than them, when they're defending him, he really can't do much. He's not overly fast, he's not overly strong. He's a great player, but he gets a lot of his points in the mid range. You can't do that against a guy that has 4 or 5 inches on you and has a bigger wingspan on you. I mean, we saw these guys absolutely locking him down. I mean, the
You
the one clip, I think it was like early in the second quarter, where Murray brings the ball up across half court and he just continues to flop and he's trying to draw the foul and he's trying to make it obvious to the ref that there's contact. And the Timberwolves are just playing straight through it. They force a turnover, and you can just tell that even after he gets rid of the ball, that they're in his head. And then,
yeah.
later in the game, the heat pack comes out, and it's just like you can see this team who I don't think any of us thought, even if they lose, they're not going to come unraveled like this. But we saw
They're
that,
unraveling.
and we saw it happen
And
at.
it's happening in real time. And I think that's the shocking thing too about it, is that it is happening right before our very eyes. They're unraveling. They're unraveling possession by possession. You can see the frustrating bowling over. You can see they're just getting thoroughly out hustled. They are just getting out physical. They're just getting thoroughly outplayed. And so 28 other teams take notes. This is how you beat the Denver Nuggets.
Yep.
This is how you beat the Denver Nuggets. That's the blue. You have the blueprint. The Timberwolves are showing you the blueprint to beat the Denver Nuggets. And I'm going to hate. I'm going to hate. I'm going to hate what the media is going to put on this team. I'm going to hate it because we already know what's coming. Was last year a fluke? Was Denver winning the championship last year? Was that just a one-hit wonder? But you know it's going to be. You know they're going to
Yeah.
say that.
I've already,
You know they're going to
yeah, I've
say it.
already seen it start
They
to happen.
already started it.
Yeah.
And so we're going to if they when they lose this series, I'm not going to say if because they're going to lose. When they lose this series, we're going to hear those questions of is it a fluke? Was last year just a one-hit wonder? They played Miami. We're going to hear this. We're going to hear this because of the way that this series is turning out to be. And to be honest, I don't see it. I see it getting worse before it gets better. I just think we're just touched the surface level of what this Timberwolves team can do to them, and it's just brutal at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, and I've seen that discourse already start to happen, and I don't think that's fair because, like you said, we haven't seen a team play them like the Timberwolves do. And maybe
Yeah.
other teams are able to recreate that, and maybe if somebody played them like that a year ago, maybe they could have beat them, but we'll never
Mhm.
know. I mean, we saw them go through some pretty good teams last year, and even in this first round, this season against the Lakers, we saw them get down big points, but you still felt like they were comfortable. In that Minnesota game, they weren't comfortable for one stretch, not for one
No.
second where they down 10, 15 points. We all thought we already knew the game was over because of how it was being played out. So I'm not going to discredit the Denver Nuggets. I just think this is a
Yeah.
terrible matchup for them. Um, I do want to go back to a thing you said quickly. You
Yeah.
said you think Denver wins game three tonight. That's kind of what I was leaning to, just because this is the defending champion. I think they win it tonight, but I got Minnesota winning game four. Is that what you're thinking too?
I do. I have them. I have. I have Minnesota winning the series in five.
Okay.
If they win today, they will sweep the Nuggets. So I think for me, it comes down to game three tonight is a must win for the Nuggets.
Yeah.
Either way, I think the series is over in five because I think the Nuggets will only win one game this series. However, if they lose tonight, I believe they will get swept. I believe it'll be over. Yeah, sweep.
Yeah, which is crazy to say. I think we both said that we could see the Timberwolves winning this series, but we just thought that Denver's experience and obviously them having Jokic would be able to get them through. We can move on, but I will say real quick.
Absolutely.
On
Uh-huh.
that defensive performance, historic defensive performance in game two. I wrote an article about it on Dunking with Wolves. You mentioned that I've been covering the Timberwolves the last few years. You can check out
Right.
that article, dunkingwithwolves.com, or on my Twitter at Chaz_post23. Just has some great stats and kind of the mindset that the Timberwolves had going into that game. And then obviously going back home for game three tonight and just where the team is at right now. So definitely check that out. And we'll see if this Timberwolves team can keep it up right now. But I mean, 6-0 in the playoffs, and I think they've been the most impressive team throughout.
Absolutely. Guys, go check him out. Coming up next, we got some quick ticks for you.